Why the longer a man is single, the more. Old Stoic Wisdom. Stoicism. You wake up to a quiet room. No buzz, no plans, no notifications to greet you. It's still. And at first, that stillness feels foreign, almost unsettling. But then, a thought creeps in. Doubt. Pressure builds in your chest. A nagging ache. Not for company, but for validation, for reassurance that you matter to someone. It's in that moment most men seek an escape. They reach for their phone, send a message to someone they shouldn't, or scroll through endless distractions. Because society tells you that silence is a sign of something missing, something wrong. If no one's texting, if no one's calling, the message is clear. You're falling behind, maybe undesirable, maybe failing. But what if that silence isn't a punishment? What if it's an opportunity? An opportunity most men are too afraid to seize. The world conditioned you to fear solitude, but no one told you what happens when you embrace it, when you stop chasing noise and confront the quiet head-on. Here's the truth. The man who seeks solitude by choice is not weak, he's dangerous, because in that stillness, he's building something far more valuable than external validation. A foundation that is unshakable. Something only he can see, but it shapes everything. This message isn't for every man. It's for those who are tired of playing by the rules of others, of performing for acceptance, of shrinking themselves to fit into spaces they've outgrown. It's for the man who has had enough of running and is ready to rise. In a world of constant noise and fleeting attention, the man who chooses stillness becomes unforgettable. This is not isolation. This is reclamation. It's not about fleeing the world. It's about rediscovering yourself. Too many men jump from one fleeting connection to the next, chasing validation as if it's the air they breathe. But what if you stopped for a moment? What if you just sat with yourself? No distractions, no need for others' approval? What happens is transformation. Your mind sharpens, your voice deepens, your standards rise. And here's the paradox. When you stop seeking others' approval, that's when they finally start to notice. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants. The longer you spend learning to be content in your own company, the more you'll realize how little external validation you truly need. Now, I want you to take a moment and write one thing in the comments. I choose solitude to forge my strength. Not because it sounds empowering, but because you're done hiding. You're done chasing. You're ready to stop running from yourself and start becoming the man you're meant to be. This is your line in the sand. Write it. Own it. Let's begin. Number 1. The fear of silence. You sit in the dark, and for once, there's no escape, no alerts, no plans, no one asking for your time, just the sound of your breath and something heavier underneath it, your thoughts. Men often avoid silence because it forces them to confront truths they'd rather ignore. They fear the quiet because in the absence of noise, distractions, and obligations, they are faced with the reality of their own lives, their choices, their past. Silence does not shout or shame, it simply reveals. It unearths what's been buried, the lost opportunities, the broken promises, the forgotten ambitions, the regrets, the fears, the things you didn't do when you had the chance. They all come flooding in. But here's the thing. Facing these truths doesn't break you, it builds you. Most men are so terrified of this confrontation with themselves that they keep moving, jumping from relationship to relationship, from goal to goal, from screen to screen, not to build anything meaningful, but to escape the uncomfortable truth within. They're not running from the people, the relationships, or even the tasks they think they are. They're running from themselves. The silence reveals them, strips away their masks, and in doing so, they must either face it or keep running. At first, the silence is crushing. It wraps around you like a storm, tightening your chest, amplifying every insecurity you've ever had. You are not enough. You are forgotten. Nothing you do matters. But if you stay in that silence, if you allow yourself to sit through the discomfort, something changes. You start to realize that those thoughts aren't who you are. They're just old, false narratives, the echoes of a past that no longer controls you. The clarity that comes isn't loud or flashy. It's a quiet knowing. You aren't your regrets. You aren't your past mistakes. You aren't defined by the woman who left or the failure you experienced. You are the man who stayed, the one who didn't flinch, the one who sat through the fire of his own fear and refused to turn away. And that, my friend, is rare. It's power. It's stoic strength. Growth isn't something that happens in the gym, in books, in podcasts, or reels. It happens in stillness. It happens when you decide to face the truth that's been hiding inside you all along. When you allow silence to sit with you, to break through your illusions, you don't fill the void with noise. You let the emptiness exist, because in doing so, you reclaim something that many men will never touch: inner command. From that silence, a new voice emerges. Not loud, not showy, but steady and real. It's not perfect, but it's authentic. And when you move, when you speak, your actions and words carry weight. You no longer have to chase approval. You no longer have to prove anything. You don't have to beg to be seen. You simply are. The world doesn't need more men who blend into the background, who let life happen to them. It needs men who are unafraid of silence, who can sit with their own thoughts, face their fears, and then walk out of that silence with clarity and strength. Because that man, he doesn't chase. He doesn't beg. He becomes who he was always meant to be. He shows up, centered, grounded, and fully in command of his life. As Marcus Aurelius, a Stoic philosopher, once said, "The impediment to action advances action. What stands in the way becomes the way." Men often look at their challenges as obstacles to escape, but the true strength lies in staying present, in facing what's in front of you without running. Life doesn't get easier when you ignore it. It becomes clearer when you face it head-on. Silence isn't a weakness. It's where you find your power. It's where you transform from a man who hides from the world into a man who is so clear, so grounded, that he no longer has to chase anything. He simply commands attention because he is unshakable. So let me ask you, are you ready to sit in the silence? Are you ready to face the truth? Because that man, the one who faces himself, he doesn't fear solitude. He uses it to grow. He becomes unbreakable, will you? Number 2, approval detox. Most men are unknowingly trapped by an invisible addiction, one that's far more subtle than alcohol, drugs, or gambling. This addiction is to approval. From the moment they wake up, they check their phones not out of necessity, but because they crave validation. Did she reply? Did they like my post? Did anyone notice me? While it may seem innocent, this need for approval is far more dangerous than it appears. It disguises itself as a form of connection, but is, in truth, a form of dependency wrapped in a smile. The danger lies in how stealthy this addiction is. No one warns you about it, and there's no rehab program for it. It doesn't just affect what you do, it slowly rewires who you think you are. You begin to shrink. You say yes when you want to scream no, laugh at jokes you don't find funny, and avoid being alone simply to avoid rejection. What you think is playing it safe is actually playing small. You trade your voice for comfort, your identity for applause, and your freedom for the illusion of belonging. The longer you feed this need, the more you become trapped in an image that others have built for you, an image that limits your potential, stunting the man you were meant to become. As Marcus Aurelius, the Stoic philosopher, wisely said, "The opinion of others is nothing to us." Yet so many of us remain enslaved to the need to be liked, constantly chasing that fleeting high of external validation. The truth is, approval is a quick fix. It hits fast, but fades just as quickly. And like any fleeting high, it leaves you wanting more attention, more validation, more performance. But eventually you burn out. It's not because you're weak, it's because you've been wearing a mask for too long. And as any man who has tried to maintain a facade knows, masks get heavy. However, there is another way, a path that's not easy but is far more real. It starts with what I call an approval detox. You begin by breaking the habit of constantly checking your phone. You stop molding your opinions to fit the room, and you begin asking harder, more honest questions. Am I doing this because I believe in it, or because I want to be liked? That simple question shifts everything. You stop chasing quick yeses, stop apologizing for your standards, and stop explaining yourself to people who were never really listening in the first place. Initially, this detox feels like withdrawal. You'll feel the silence, the distance, and those voices in your head whispering, "What if they don't like me anymore?" But you sit with it. You breathe through it. You allow the discomfort to sharpen you. Over time, a new voice begins to emerge, one that's quieter but solid, the voice of your true self, long buried under years of performance. And then comes the shift. You stop texting just to stay relevant, stop laughing when it's not funny, and start valuing your time, your truth, and your peace. People begin to notice. They sense something different about you, a weight in your presence, a stillness in your eyes. You no longer need to be the center of attention. In fact, the paradox is this. When you stop chasing attention, you become impossible to ignore. As the Stoics would say, "He who is brave is free." Men who seek approval blend in, but those who choose to stand firm in their own beliefs and self-respect stand out, not by being loud, but by being aligned with their true selves. When you detox from approval, you don't just gain the respect of others, you earn peace, not by hiding, but by standing tall in your own truth. You gain power, not through control, but through clarity. This transformation comes at a cost. Fake friends, shallow smiles, and temporary applause fade away. But what you gain is invaluable. The respect you've earned through your authenticity, peace in your soul, and the power that comes from being unapologetically you. So ask yourself, are you still living to be liked? Still adjusting who you are to make others comfortable? Or are you finally ready to choose yourself? Because once you do, something profound shifts. You stop chasing approval, you stop performing, and you simply become the man you were always meant to be. The world will notice, not because you're loud or performing, but because you're unshakable in your conviction. You stop explaining, stop justifying, and just exist. In the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, first say to yourself what you would be, and then do what you have to do. Now is the time to choose yourself, to stop seeking approval, and to live in alignment with your true self. If you're tired of seeking approval and ready to stand firm in your truth, drop a comment right now. I am the man who chooses himself. Like this video, subscribe for more unshakable wisdom, and remind yourself daily, true power comes from within, not from the applause of others. Number 3, clarity through solitude. There comes a moment in every man's life when the constant clamour of the world fades, and what's left is a stillness that's not forced or empty, but simply quiet. In that moment, something profound occurs. It's as though the fog of daily noise and external demands suddenly lifts. Not because the world has changed, but because you've chosen to step away from it. You've silenced the expectations, turned down the pressure, and momentarily blocked out the constant stream of opinions that have dominated your life. In this quiet, you hear something you may have forgotten existed: yourself. Solitude is not isolation, it's restoration. It's the act of peeling back all the layers that never truly belonged to you so you can finally see the core of who you are. In the midst of life's chaos, you're reactive. You're rushing from one task to the next, adjusting to external pressures, conforming, performing, and constantly seeking validation. You live in a state of constant checking, wondering if you're measuring up to someone else's standards, if you're on the right path, if you've done enough. But when you embrace solitude, things slow down. Instead of constantly reacting, you start to observe. You begin to notice what you allow into your mind, your time, and your life. The distractions fade away, and you realize that so much of what you've been striving for, what you thought you wanted, was never truly yours. The goals, the lifestyle, the concept of success, they were handed to you by someone else. You've been chasing an ideal life, but it never felt like home. However, when you step back, when the noise of social media fades, when the phone stays down, and when weekends are no longer packed with obligations, something remarkable happens. You begin to experience clarity. You start asking better questions, not what do people expect of me, but what do I truly want? What makes me feel energized and what drains me? Who am I when I'm around certain people? And do I like that version of myself? Solitude gives you the space to reflect on these questions without the pressure to answer them quickly or the need for approval. It allows you to sit with your thoughts, feel the discomfort, and breathe through it. Over time, the mirror of self-awareness becomes clearer. You stop pretending to be fine with things that no longer feel right. You stop tolerating relationships and situations that are hollow. You stop lying to yourself to avoid discomfort. Instead, you begin to live in alignment with what's true for you. Not perfect, but authentic. Not polished, but real. Through this process, you find the strength to say no without guilt. You create space not because you're distant, but because you've become discerning. Your decisions aren't based on fear of judgment, they are based on clarity. You begin to cut ties, not out of anger, but out of wisdom. Solitude doesn't just clear your head, it sharpens your vision. It allows you to become intentional with your choices. No longer do you wake up to simply survive the day. You wake up with a sense of purpose and direction. Your routines are no longer aimless. They are aligned with your deeper goals. Your social circle reflects your values, and your environment becomes a mirror of who you truly are, not the version you thought you were supposed to be. As this transformation occurs, something else shifts. You no longer feel the need to explain your choices to those who will never understand them. You don't need to argue. You don't need to prove yourself. You simply live, and your life begins to speak for itself. It's then that you realize that you're no longer available for drama. You're no longer vulnerable to manipulation. You're no longer influenced by shallow distractions or the noise of others. You are rooted, and that rootedness makes you immovable. People can disagree with you, misunderstand you, or even walk away, and yet you remain centered. Because now you're not living for anyone else's approval. You're living in alignment with the man you were always meant to become. This is the true gift of solitude. It strips away distractions, burns away the false versions of yourself, and leaves you with a sense of peace and purpose. The man who has embraced solitude doesn't speak to impress. He speaks because what he says matters. He doesn't chase after things. He builds them. He doesn't need to be understood because he has finally taken the time to understand himself. So, if your world feels quiet right now, don't panic. That silence is not a sign of emptiness. It's an invitation to slow down, reflect, and listen. You don't need more external validation. You don't need more likes, more responses, more attention from others, or more distractions. What you need is more stillness, more solitude, and more moments where you can sit alone and reconnect with the man you've neglected for far too long. The man who walks alone isn't broken. He's rebuilding. He's not running away from the world. He's returning to his center, refining himself, and shedding everything that never truly belonged to him. He doesn't move like someone waiting to be chosen. He moves like someone who has already chosen himself. And when you become that man, everything begins to align. The right people stay, the wrong ones fade, and opportunities no longer need to be chased. They find you. This is not magic. This is mastery. If you've made it this far, you're already on the path to something extraordinary. While most people are lost in the noise, you're beginning to understand the true power of solitude, a tool that will shape your future, your choices, and your purpose. Now, take this next step. Comment. I choose myself to declare your commitment to embracing clarity through solitude and aligning with your true self. Let's make this journey together. Number 4, the power of patience. In a world that demands instant gratification and rewards, there lies an undeniable truth, the true power of patience. We live in an age where everything is at our fingertips: information, communication, entertainment, success. The race for immediate results has become a silent, yet overwhelming force that shapes our decisions and expectations. Success, validation, and fulfillment are expected now, in the moment, or they risk being discarded as irrelevant. But here's the reality. True growth, true mastery, and true success do not come from quick fixes. They come from the slow, steady process of patience, a lesson learned through solitude. Solitude, while often misunderstood as loneliness, is the crucible where a man becomes refined. The man who chooses solitude is not idle. He is cultivating his own inner world, fortifying his resolve, and preparing for the life that requires real strength. As Marcus Aurelius wisely said, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be. Be one." This wisdom echoes the sentiment that greatness is not a product of fleeting moments, but a result of the unwavering commitment to the path, no matter how slow it may seem. Patience isn't about waiting passively for life to unfold. It is the active decision to trust in the process. It's about knowing that success, in all its forms, comes only when it is earned over time. This truth is a battle between man and the pull of modern distractions. The real power lies not in rushing towards results, but in maintaining a disciplined, patient resolve in the face of the world's impatience. It's an understanding that not all things are meant to bloom in the same season, and that some fruits of labour take years to ripen. In solitude, the man learns this lesson deeply. He understands that while the world may be racing by, the most profound achievements require time to nurture, patience to cultivate, and perseverance to see through to their fruition. The man who waits, who does not panic at the pace of life, finds that his growth is deeper, more meaningful, and, ultimately, more lasting. In this fast-paced, hyper-connected world, the man who learns to wait, the man who learns to trust, and the man who can remain patient becomes a force to be reckoned with. He knows that life's most significant rewards do not come from hasty decisions or frantic pursuit, but from a calm and focused dedication to a steady course. Patience is power. It is not weakness or passivity, but the strategic advantage that allows you to outlast the distractions, the rush, and the noise of the world around you. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus said, "It's not what happens to you, but how you react to it that matters." This is where your strength lies, not in reacting to every wave of change, but in choosing to navigate them at your own pace. Take a moment and think about your own life. What are you rushing towards? What are you sacrificing in the name of instant results? The time you spend waiting, learning, and growing is never wasted. It is the very foundation of your future success. Embrace the wisdom of patience. Choose solitude. Choose to trust the process. Take action now. Like, comment, or subscribe, and share your commitment to this path. Leave a comment below with one thing you're going to patiently pursue. Because true mastery doesn't come from racing to the finish line, it comes from a steady, powerful walk to the top. Number 5. The discipline of consistency. The discipline of consistency is one of the most vital, yet often underappreciated aspects of mastering any area of life. In today's world, it's all too easy for men to fall into the trap of constant distraction, flitting from one thing to the next, with little follow-through. Whether it's a career goal, a fitness regimen, or personal development, many men start strong but quickly lose their way as the distractions of life pull them in every direction. However, when a man chooses the path of solitude, he begins to discover a profound truth. The real power of consistency lies in the quiet, deliberate actions he takes each day, irrespective of external pressures or fleeting distractions. This is the essence of discipline. As the Stoic philosopher Marcus Aurelius once stated, "Waste no more time arguing what a good man should be one." In solitude, a man learns to silence the noise of the world and focus on what truly matters to him. There is no one to impress, no one to compete with, and no one to judge. The only voice that matters is his own, and the only expectations he faces are the standards he has set for himself. It's in these moments of solitude that a man begins to see that true discipline doesn't come from others' approval or recognition, but from within. There are no shortcuts in the pursuit of greatness, only consistent, deliberate action day in and day out. Whether it's waking up early to exercise, setting aside time to read and reflect, or simply sticking to a set of personal values, consistency is what shapes and molds a man's character over time. The power of consistency, however, isn't just about achieving external success. It's about cultivating an inner sense of strength and integrity that no external circumstance can shake. As the Stoic philosopher Epictetus wisely said, "No man is free who is not master of himself." In other words, true freedom comes from the ability to discipline oneself, to stick to a course of action even when the road gets tough. When a man chooses to embrace solitude, he's not simply avoiding distractions, he's choosing to master himself. It is in solitude that he becomes intimately acquainted with his own weaknesses, his flaws and his desires, and yet chooses to consistently act in ways that align with his higher principles. The more a man embraces this solitude, the more he learns that discipline isn't just about following a rigid set of rules, it's about honoring his own commitments, regardless of the challenges or temptations that may arise. It's about showing up for himself day after day, even when there's no applause or recognition. The great secret here is that this internal discipline builds an unshakable foundation. As the philosopher Seneca once said, "A gem cannot be polished without friction, nor a man perfected without trials. Just as a gem is polished through repeated, consistent friction, a man is shaped through the daily act of adhering to his principles, even when the world around him pulls him in different directions. Every time a man sticks to his commitments, no matter how small the action, he strengthens that foundation. He builds trust with himself. He creates a solid ground that no external opinion or distraction can topple. This is why solitude is not a punishment, but a powerful tool for personal growth. It allows a man to focus inward, to strengthen his willpower, and to reinforce the integrity of his decisions. It is in the consistent application of discipline, day after day, that a man creates the foundation for lasting success in all areas of life. The key is to understand that consistency is not just about routine, it's about creating a system of habits that are aligned with one's true values and purpose. True discipline is not the result of external expectations, it's the result of a deep internal commitment to one's own growth and principles. When you make the decision to consistently show up for yourself, no matter how small the step, you reinforce the character you are building. Over time, these small actions compound, creating a person of immense inner strength and integrity. And just as the Stoics advised, when you make consistency a daily habit, you no longer need to worry about the external noise, because your internal commitment is stronger than any fleeting distraction. So, the next time you feel overwhelmed by the demands of the world or uncertain about how to stay disciplined, remember the words of the great philosopher Aristotle. We are what we repeatedly do. Excellence, then, is not an act, but a habit. In solitude, you have the space to cultivate that habit, to craft the person you want to be, and to remain unshaken by external pressures. Consistency isn't something that happens overnight. It's the result of small, deliberate actions taken every day, and it is this consistency that ultimately builds the man. If you believe in the power of consistency and the strength that comes from self-discipline, drop a comment right now. I show up for myself every day. Like this video, subscribe for more timeless wisdom, and remind yourself daily, excellence is built through small, deliberate actions. Number 6. The wisdom of boundaries. As a man spends more time alone, the importance of boundaries becomes ever clearer, revealing itself as one of the most valuable lessons solitude offers. In today's world, where distractions are endless and everyone seems to be vying for your time and attention, the ability to draw the line between what is worthwhile and what is not becomes a skill forged in the quiet moments of reflection. Solitude isn't merely about being by yourself. It's about cultivating a deeper understanding of where you must guard your time, energy, and focus. It's a powerful realization that your life is yours to control, and only by respecting your own boundaries can you protect your peace and maintain your sense of purpose. In a society that constantly pulls you in multiple directions, this awareness is like finding a guiding compass. It tells you what deserves your commitment and what is better left behind. Over time, the more a man sits with his own thoughts and experiences the stillness, the clearer his sense of discernment becomes. He learns to distinguish between the noise that doesn't serve him and the deeper, more meaningful pursuits that align with his values. This inner clarity helps him stop seeking validation or approval from others. No longer will the opinions, demands, and expectations of others shape his decisions. Instead, he begins to operate from a place of self-awareness, responding to life's challenges with a quiet confidence. This transformation is subtle yet profound. What was once a man bending to the will of external forces becomes a man who stands solidly in his own purpose and direction. He is no longer swayed by the ebb and flow of others' desires and judgments. His own desires, those rooted in his truest self, take precedence. In many ways, this shift mirrors ancient Stoic wisdom. Stoics like Marcus Aurelius and Seneca often emphasize the importance of controlling one's inner life. The world may be chaotic, but the ability to control our responses and direct our energy inward to what truly matters is the mark of a wise man. This principle is not about rejecting society or becoming antisocial, but rather about mastering the art of focusing on what aligns with your values. Boundaries are not walls designed to isolate you. Rather, they are gates that allow only what is necessary and positive to pass through. They are the barriers that protect your peace and preserve your energy for the things that truly matter. Think of them as the defense mechanisms for your purpose, helping you preserve the mental and emotional bandwidth you need to stay true to yourself. In modern life, setting boundaries has never been more crucial. With technology and social media constantly bombarding us with information, it's easy to fall into the trap of being constantly reactive, pulled in different directions by the needs and expectations of others. But by practicing the Stoic art of solitude, a man can learn to say no, politely but firmly, to things that drain his energy or push him off course. This isn't just about setting boundaries with others, it's also about setting boundaries with yourself. How much time do you spend mindlessly scrolling through social media? How many hours are wasted on distractions that lead you nowhere? Solitude helps you find answers to these questions and teaches you how to reclaim that time for activities that align with your deeper goals. Ultimately, boundaries are the silent strength that empowers a man to live a life on his own terms. They signal to the world that your time, energy, and attention are valuable, and that they are not to be freely given away to those who do not respect them. By embracing solitude, a man not only learns to say no, but also affirms his commitment to living with intention and purpose. The more he practices this discipline, the more he grows in confidence, and the world begins to respect him for it. Just as a well-placed gate protects what's valuable, the boundaries a man sets in his life safeguard his peace, his potential, and ultimately his purpose. Number 7. The strength of self-reliance. In a world where we are constantly encouraged to seek advice, validation, and approval from others, whether it's from friends, family, or even social media, the true power of a man lies in learning to depend on himself. The more time a man spends on his own, the more he realizes that he is his own greatest resource. Solitude, when fully embraced, becomes a powerful teacher, showing him how to become self-sufficient in ways that go beyond just the physical realm. In the quiet of being alone, a man learns not only to manage his practical needs, but also to nurture his emotional and mental well-being. It's in these moments of solitude that a man is forced to rely on his own judgment, his own capabilities, and his own sense of direction in life. The longer a man remains single, the more he comes to understand that he must trust himself. He begins to forge his own path, make decisions independently, and learn to become his own source of motivation. This kind of self-reliance is not about isolation or arrogance. It's not about pushing people away or rejecting help. Rather, It comes from the deeper understanding that people come and go, relationships shift, and circumstances change, but the one constant in your life is you. Over time, a man who has learned to be self-reliant begins to realize that he cannot depend on others for his sense of self-worth. He can no longer seek external validation or constantly look to others for the answers to his problems. The more time spent in solitude, the more this internal realization deepens. A man who is self-reliant trusts in his own capacity to figure things out, to find solutions, and to stay grounded when life gets tough. He stops waiting for approval from others and starts taking full ownership of his choices, knowing that he has the power to create his own reality. The beauty of this self-reliance lies in its quiet, unshakable confidence. It doesn't require a crowd to feel validated, nor does it need others to confirm that he's on the right track. Instead, a man who embraces self-reliance learns that his true worth is not tied to the opinions of others. He understands that he doesn't need applause or external recognition to know that he is on the right path. In the silence of solitude, he becomes attuned to his own intuition. He learns to trust his gut, listen to his inner voice, and act on his own judgment, all without fear of rejection or failure. This is the type of strength that is unshakable, not because it's loud or forceful, but because it's grounded in self-trust. A man who relies on himself has the quiet confidence to take bold action, even in the face of uncertainty, knowing that whatever happens, he will be able to adapt and move forward. This concept of self-reliance is beautifully captured in the words of the Stoic philosopher Epictetus, who said, "Wealth consists not in having great possessions, but in having few wants." When a man truly understands self-reliance, he begins to cultivate inner wealth. This wealth isn't measured in material possessions or external markers of success. It is found in emotional resilience, mental clarity, and an unshakable sense of self-worth. The man who embraces this form of self-reliance doesn't need the world to validate him. He doesn't need constant praise, recognition, or material rewards to feel fulfilled. His wealth lies in his ability to navigate life with a sense of inner peace, to face challenges with grace, and to remain steady even in the stormiest of times. He builds a wealth of wisdom through experience, and his resilience becomes the foundation for everything else in his life. In today's age, where we are constantly connected to others through technology and social media, learning to rely on oneself is a radical act of liberation. We live in a world where there is always an expectation to be available, to share our opinions, and to seek validation from those around us. The pressure to conform and to constantly check in with others can feel overwhelming. Yet, it is precisely in learning to trust oneself that a man can break free from these external pressures. Self-reliance is the antidote to the tyranny of societal expectations. When a man learns to rely on his own judgment and to trust his own path, he frees himself from the need to constantly seek approval or validation from the outside world. In this freedom, he becomes truly unstoppable. He is no longer chained by the need to conform or fit into a mold that others have set for him. He is empowered to live life on his own terms, guided by his own values and principles. This freedom from external validation is not a rejection of relationships or community, but rather an understanding that true strength comes from within. A man who is self-reliant is not isolated. He is simply anchored in his own sense of self. He knows that while relationships can enrich his life, they do not define his worth. The power of self-reliance allows him to stand firm in his own strength, knowing that no matter what happens, he is enough. The man who discovers this strength is one who commands respect, not because he demands it, but because his confidence is rooted in something much deeper than the approval of others. His value is intrinsic, not dependent on external sources. So ask yourself, are you ready to become the man who stands firm in his own strength? The man who doesn't need to lean on anyone else to feel whole? The man who trusts his own path and takes ownership of his life, free from the need for constant validation? Once you discover the power of self-reliance, you become a force to be reckoned with. You no longer wait for permission or approval. Instead, you act boldly, trust yourself fully, and become a true master of your own destiny. This is the kind of man who commands attention and respect, not through force, but through the quiet confidence of knowing who he is and what he stands for. In embracing self-reliance, you unlock the key to an unstoppable life. If you found value in this video, I truly appreciate you taking the time to watch. Please consider giving it a like, sharing it with anyone who could benefit from the wisdom we've discussed today, and subscribing if you haven't already. Don't forget to hit the notification bell so that you're always the first to know when new content drops. We've got plenty more in store to help you live a more meaningful, focused life. Before you go, I'd love to hear from you. What do you think about the ideas we've explored today? Do you agree with the Stoic perspective on why a man's growth tends to accelerate the longer he remains single? Or do you see it differently? Whatever your thoughts, feel free to leave a comment below. Let's dive deeper into the discussion together. Your experiences, feedback, and reflections are always welcome here. Remember, Stoicism teaches us that we are in control of our reactions, not our circumstances. Life's challenges are opportunities for growth, and the wisdom to navigate them has been with us all along. So, take this knowledge, put it into practice, and never forget, you are the prize. Own your journey. Until next time, stay strong, stay disciplined, and keep moving forward. You've got this.